There is an iron law of life that governs both humans and animals. And if you do not understand and embrace this law, you may be dooming yourself to a life of frustration, scarcity, and loneliness. On the other hand, if you do embrace and leverage this law, you have a fighting chance for a fantastic life that can continue to get better and better. So what is this law? Simply stated, you cannot consume unless you first produce. Production must come before consumption. Now, this sounds like an economic law. Production and consumption sound like economic terms. And fair warning, economics is known as the dismal science for a very good reason. It forces us to not only acknowledge that everything costs something, but also exactly what those costs are. And this is something that not a lot of people like to even think about. We like to believe that we can get stuff without having to do stuff. We like to believe we can get stuff that somebody else is going to pay for or some kind of magic is going to pay for. But this law has governed both humans and animals since before humans existed. So how do we apply this law? How does this law work out? Well, let's start with hunter-gatherer societies where we spent most of our time as humans. 90% of our time as humans was spent as hunter-gatherers. And the law of the land for hunter-gatherers was you don't kill, you don't eat. You can't eat something unless you first produce that. You couldn't slack off. You couldn't live off other people's productivity as a hunter-gatherer. So you had to produce something first. The only people that were exempt from this law were little kids who were too young to do anything. But as soon as they were old enough, they had to help produce things. They had to help make things. They had to help get things. Now, modern times may seem incredibly different than what we imagine from hunter-gatherer times, but it's really not that different. The only key difference is that there's way too much stuff, or a lot of stuff, way more stuff, way too much stuff to produce what you consume directly. Back in the hunter-gatherer days, if you killed an animal, you ate that animal. But today there's so many people and so much stuff, it's impossible to produce what you consume directly. You can't build your own car. You can't grow your own grain, grind your own grain, make your own bread. You can't grow your own peanuts, grind your own peanuts, make your own peanut butter. So we have to produce stuff and then trade it with what other people produce. And when we trade, we use this intermediary thing called money. But the law still applies. First, you produce something. You go to work. You do work. Your boss pays you. You take that money and you buy something from somebody that produces something else. And they produce that thing first, then they get your money. So it's essentially the same idea, just split out a little bit because of this intermediary money thing. You produce something first, you get the money, you take that money, and then you buy what you want from somebody else who produces something first, then they get your money. Now, there's a corollary to this law that's not so obvious because we all use this intermediary money thing. But the corollary says that when you produce something, and if you're going to trade that thing that you produce directly with somebody else, they will only accept that trade if they value what you are giving them. The value of what you are offering to trade is based on the receiver, the potential receiver, not the giver. This is a very, very critical idea that most people very much do not want to understand or accept. The value of what you have to offer to somebody else is judged by the potential receiver, not the giver. There's a fantastic example of this from history. Way back in the day, the Phoenicians were sailing out the Mediterranean Sea, hopefully to go through the Strait of Gibraltar to explore the world. The Phoenicians existed between about 1200 BC and about 300 BC. So for a little bit, they were contemporaries of the Greeks. But when they first started to explore, they were sailing out the Strait of Gibraltar. And the Strait of Gibraltar is between Africa and Spain. And you can see Spain from Africa, and you can see Africa from Spain. So they were sailing through the strait, and they saw these Africans. And they thought, hey, let's trade with them. Let's offer them some of our stuff and see if they give us some of their stuff in exchange. So they put a bunch of stuff in a little boat. They rowed to shore. They left their stuff on the shore. They went back to their main ship, and they watched. The Africans checked out the stuff, and they left it there. They didn't want it. So the Phoenicians reckoned that, well, maybe they didn't like our stuff, so let's add more stuff. Let's add more value to what we offered so that we can trade. Let's add more value to what we offered so that maybe they'll trade. And that's what they did. They put more stuff out there. And then the Africans finally took it. And so this is a key lesson of how humans operate. And historians and anthropologists tell us that whenever two cultures come together that don't share the similar language, this is how they trade. They make an offer, and if the other team doesn't take it, they add more value to their offer so that they'll trade. And this is what happens between humans since the dawn of time. Another example of this same principle, suppose you're a little kid on the playground and you have a bag of cookies, and there's another kid. He wants your cookies, but he knows you won't just give it to him, so he's got to trade you something. And he's got a bag of pickles, and that kid absolutely loves pickles. He thinks pickles are the greatest invention ever. But that particular day, he wants some cookies. So he says, hey, I'll trade you my delicious pickles for some cookies. If you don't like pickles, you're not going to take that trade. It doesn't matter how much he loves his pickles. You're not going to trade his pickles for your cookies because you like cookies way more than pickles. And that's how trade works. You produce something first, then you can use it yourself, or you can trade it with somebody else. But the law of the land still is in place. You have to produce first, and you can consume that yourself, or you can trade that with somebody else. But if you trade it with somebody else, it's based on how they value that thing, not you. This is the primary reason why so many people are lonely today, because this law works with physical things. This law also works with metaphorical things, like your personality, like your conversational skills. A lot of people look in the mirror and they say, haha, I'm a 10. That's my valuation of myself. And they go out into the world, but other people don't think they're a 10. Other people think they're a 2. So they're really a 2, but they think they're a 10, which means all they get in exchange for what they think is a 10 is a 2, which doesn't suit them well. They think they're a 10. They think they deserve a 10, which sets up the two most terrible mind patterns to make you very, very lonely. And that is, number one, you refuse to acknowledge the rule that you first must produce before you can consume. And two, you have some sense of entitlement that says, I want stuff just because. And you combine these together and you get loneliness and anger and frustration. You don't acknowledge that your value is not determined by you. It's determined by other people that want to accept you in exchange or potential exchange. On the other side of the coin, if you embrace this rule, if you embrace these two principles, that value is based on the receiver, not the giver, and you must produce first before you consume, you can have a fantastic life. Whenever you approach somebody, think of it as a trade. I'm trading my personality for your personality. I'm trading my conversational skills for your conversational skills. And just like the Phoenicians, if they don't accept the trade at first, add more value. So long as you're willing to add more value to who you are, add more value to what you have to offer to other people, you'll always get more in exchange. So long as you add more financial value, if you add more skill value, you can expect more from the boss. You can make more money. If you continue to increase your personality, increase your conversational skills, you'll add more personality value to other people, and you'll be more valuable to other people, which means you'll be able to expect more in exchange for your personality. So the key to success in life is to acknowledge these two ideas and resolve to continue to improve yourself, to always improve yourself. So long as you always improve the value of which you offer to the world, you can always get more in exchange. And this comes by improving your skills, improving all your skills, improving your thinking skills, improve your problem-solving skills, improve your public speaking skills, improve your humor skills. And you can even say that this is a good definition of the purpose of your life, to continue to improve yourself, to continue to get better in all areas, so that you can continue to offer more to the world and expect more from the world in exchange. And so long as you embrace this, so long as you embrace continuous improvement, so long as you embrace the idea of production first, consumption later, so long as you embrace the idea that what you give is the value of what you give is determined by other people, not you, you can continue to succeed more and more. Continue to improve yourself. This is the path to success. So tell me what you think in the comments. If you'd like to learn more about how you can continue to improve yourself, check out the links below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.